Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to be talking about, I'm actually going to be reading an astrology chart for a very famous personality, someone who I adore a lot, and I was a very big fan of Michael Jackson. And honestly, I did not know him when he was at his prime because I was very young at the time. But later on in his life, reading about him, listening to his music, and knowing about his personality, um, everything made me a very big fan. And so I wanted to read his chart and I wanted to see some of the key points that we can take from his chart. What can we see from his astrological placements? What was his main purpose of life? And did he live to the fullest extent? So that is what we want to go and see in this video. So what you're seeing here right now is the birth details of Michael Jackson. So he was born on 29th August 1958, and his time of birth is 7:33 p.m. and he was born in Gary, Indiana. So this birth detail was confirmed by his nephew online. So this is a very verified information. So it's not some random data that has been taken from the net. So, as per his birth details, he has an Aquarius ascendant and he has an Aquarius moon sign. So, let's go ahead and see what his chart is showing us and how some of the planets are being placed in his chart. So what you're seeing in the screen is the astrological chart for Michael Jackson. So you can see that the moon is placed in the ascendant and he's an Aquarius ascendant. So the first thing that we need to understand is whenever somebody has a planet in its ascendant, and if a planet is going to a certain house, that's going to have a great impact on his personality. So ascendant is nothing but, it's own life and somebody's own personality. So whenever there's a planet sitting there, it's going to have a great impact on their personality. So moon is said to be a very emotional planet. It's a very sensitive planet, and moon is something that is considered with empathizing others. So how you're able to empathize with others, care for others, nurture others. So, Michael Jackson, by birth, is considered to be a very emotional person, very sensitive. And to a certain extent, Moon in the ascendant also makes you very gullible. Like, you'll believe everybody. Because Moon is associated with innocence, young age, kind of like a naive person. So, that is what has made him a very sensitive, emotional, and very naive person. At the same time, you can also see that Moon is in the sign of Aquarius. So Aquarius is a sign of, it's actually the most philanthropic sign that I've ever seen. Whenever you have your ascendant, your moon or sun in Aquarius, it is said that your karma is to give back to the world. It is also said it's actually the curse of Aquarius and Scorpio, which we can discuss later in detail. But whenever somebody is born in the ascendant or moon sign or sun having an Aquarius, it is believed that they come into this earth with a karma of giving back to the world or giving back to the society. So we can see that Michael Jackson was actually born with an Aquarius ascendant, as well as he had a moon sign in his in Aquarius sign. So there were two key planets or two key elements in his astrology chart leading into Aquarius sign. So which is why he had a lot of things to do with like giving back to the world. How can you better the society? What can I do to make the music industry better? How can I revolutionize things? So that is why his thinking has always been on, what can I do better? How can I give back to the world? Because moon is the your mind, like how you think. So that explains why he has such a great ability to think about others and give back to others. But Moon also, as per Aquarius ascendant, Moon becomes the sixth house lord, which is 6,000 astrology is considered as a house of conflicts. It is also considered as a house of litigations. A lot of like court cases, a lot of debts, and sixth house is one of the negative houses in astrology. So because sixth house is coming to his ascendant, anytime sixth house has any connection with the ascendant, there is a saying that, the person might have a lot of controversies, or the person might have debts associated with him in his life, or a lot of, like, he might see a lot of litigations cases. So we all very well know that, Michael Jackson was maybe, like, the most targeted celebrity in terms of litigations, court cases, and he had so many issues related to law. So that explains his moon in ascendant. So next, going back, let's look about his career. So for an Aquarius ascendant, the career is being ruled by Mars because the 10th house is Scorpio and it is being ruled by Mars. So if you see, Mars is placed in the third house. So third house is the house of communications or anything to do with entertainment industry, media, anything to do with that is coming under the third house. So he has his 10th lord in the third house, which is a direct indication that he's going to have a career in the entertainment industry or something to do with media or communication sort of an industry. And his Mars is placed in a very strong position. His Mars is actually placed in Aries in third house, which is its own sign. So Mars actually gains a lot of power, and it's also aspected by Rahu and Jupiter, two planets which actually magnify, any planet that it is looking at. So he has a very, very, very strong career ability. So that is denoted by his chart. And anytime Rahu is associated with your career lord or the 10th lord, it is a clear indication that you're going to have massive success. And Rahu is, it denotes masses. It denotes like a very sudden and a very big level of success. It's not like, just touching 10 people or 100 people. Rahu is the masses. So his Rahu is looking at his career and it is exploding, and his Mars is very strong. So, so he is going to have a very good career. He's passionate about his career. And we can also see his ascendant lord, because he's Aquarius ascendant, his ascendant lord is placed in the 10th house. Saturn is placed in Scorpio, which is the 10th house. And we can see that because of that, the main focus of his life is going to be his career, because the ascendant lord is being placed in the 10th house, which is the house of career. So I mean, like, he's going to be like placing a lot of his energy, a lot of efforts, a lot of things revolving around his life is going to be centered around the career aspect of it. So that is what we are seeing regarding career. The next thing what we want to see is his marriage prospects or relationship prospects. To be honest, I feel like he has a very good ability, um, indicated, like, in the chart he has a very good spouse indicated in his marriage, but also there's some trouble that is being shown in this chart. So if you see in his chart, sun becomes the seventh lord. Seventh lord is your marriage lord, and when Sun becomes your seventh lord, you always get somebody who's of power. Sun is somebody very regal, somebody of power. And Sun is sitting in its own place. So you're going to get somebody who's very, beautiful, somebody who's of great power, somebody who is from a very regal family or a royal family. Because Sun is all about the royalness, being the leader of things. And that indicates that he's going to get a very good spouse. Whenever your seventh lord is exalted or placed in its own sign or placed in its Multrikona sign, it's always a good indication that you're going to get a very good spouse. But the relationship with the spouse can be a little bit troubled because Sun is a planet of ego, right? And Sun is said to be burning any house that it sits in. Although it brightens certain aspects of it, there is always a possibility that Sun is going to burn the house that it sits in. So, which is why when Sun sits in the seventh house, usually they say people will have like a lot of ego clashes with the spouses, or the family of the spouses might not get along. There might be some status clashes or ego clashes. So that could have been a very good indication of what is happening in his relationship. But he is destined to have a very good spouse because Sun is placed very well. It's placed in its own sign of Leo, and because of that he is destined to have a good spouse. And the next thing we have to see when we consider about marriage is how is Michael Jackson's Venus placed, right? So his Venus is placed in the sign of Cancer. So he actually likes women. So Cancer is a very mothering or nurturing sign. It's a very emotional sign, and it's a very sensitive and a caring sign. So when Venus goes there, you actually want people who are like that, who has mothering ability, or somebody who's like your mother. Sometimes even people get attracted to that. And you like things, you actually would like your own mother a lot. You would have a lot of affection towards your own mother, and you're also going to be very sensitive in your relationship. It is said that Venus and Cancer is the most sensitive placement for Venus to be in. So when somebody has a Venus in Cancer, it's like when they like somebody, they are going to like them for life. It's going to be very difficult for them to leave that person or forget the person, because they're going to be so hurt if something happens to them. So they are very sensitive when Venus is in Cancer. And again, they also like people who are like motherly in nature, who has a good mothering ability, or who's very maternal in nature. To be honest, I feel like that is why Michael Jackson had such a big affection towards Diana Ross. Diana Ross was like his mother, and she was pretty much like she bought him from childhood like a mother, and she had such a great maternal nourishment on him, and she was nurturing him. But that turned into affection towards him. And you can also notice, like Lisa Marie, his wife, I think, given his chart and looking at the way that the planets are placed, I think the biggest draw that Lisa Marie would have presented to Michael is that Lisa herself is a mother of two kids. So maybe that's one thing that he was attracted to. So Michael is it's a very, his Venus is placed in a very sensitive sign. And it's also in a very complicated sign because Venus is placed in the sixth house again. So that again indicates that it is going to be having some sort of conflicts with women or in the areas of expressing love. So that is his reading. And we can see that, there are two planets that are sitting in his seventh house. So the planet Sun and the planet Mercury. So it is said that whenever a planet sits in a certain house, then when we have the dasha of that planet, it's more likely we would have incidents related to that house come into our life. So we can see actually through his Dasha period chart, he actually got married during his Mercury period. So when he was running his Mercury period, he actually got married to, that is when he actually met Lisa Marie, and then he ended up marrying her within that period. But unfortunately, I guess like it was a very quick marriage. It was very soon, and it ended up very soon after that. So, but like I said, he is a Venus in Cancer, and people like this has very great ability to like, they have like very great ability to fall in love with a person, and they are very hurt. If they are hurt because of love, they are very hurt, like they're very sensitive. They will not find it easy to move on to another person. They would be crying about it for years. So which is why Michael Jackson would have not entered into another relationship, although it is not very clear whether his true love is Lisa Marie or somebody else. But he did, it does show that he's somebody who was very sensitive in love and very caring and nurturing in love. So the next thing that we're going to see is actual timing of death. So Michael Jackson's chart died when he was running his Ketu Dasha. So Ketu's Dasha is considered to be one of the most difficult dashas in anyone's horoscope. So whenever a person goes through Ketu Dasha, it is said that that person would turn spiritual, or something would make them turn spiritual, leave all materialistic interest, and they would just turn their interest towards spirituality. So a lot of times people turn towards spirituality only when they face hardship, only when they are going through a tough time. We turn our attention towards God. So that is why usually Ketu Dasha is said to be very, very tough, because usually we face a lot of difficulties during the time. So eventually you would go and you would, fall in the feet of God and say, like, this materialistic thing is not important for me and I need your help. That is what Ketu Dasha is all about. That is true for anybody in this lifetime. So if you are in your chart, if there is an indication that you're going to have Ketu Dasha during your lifetime, in that time you need to be very prepared to go through trials and tribulation, and also ask the help of God, because that is the period which is meant for transforming you to realize spiritual importance. It's the period that is actually there for us to realize that all in this life is not materialistic. That is not the most important thing, and spiritualism is the most important thing. So if you see in his chart, you can see that he started his Ketu Dasha a year before his death, and because of that, we all know about the amount of debt he had and how so many bad things that had happened to him right before his death. So these are all a very common thing that Ketu Dasha would bring. Ketu Dasha usually brings a lot of difficulties, a lot of trials and tribulations, which we can see from his chart as well. So he died during his Ketu Dasha, which is again, like, it is an indication of somebody who's surrendering to spiritual, like spiritually surrendering. He is completely spiritual, and then he is very, very happy to go to God. So that is an indication when somebody dies in a Ketu Dasha. So overall his chart is a very it's a very strong chart for someone who's focused on his career. So if you look at his chart, the most strongest planet in his chart is his Mars and his Sun. So his Mars denotes actually his career, so it is very, very good indication that he's going to have a very strong career. His Mars is strong um, in his Dashamsha chart also. So his Dashamsha chart is an indication of, it's a more magnified version of one's career. So he has a strong 10th lord even in his Dashamsha. And in both instances, there is Rahu's association with that. So, which is why he has such a massive level of fame and achievement in his career. And another thing is, Mars is a planet of courage. So, in reality, although Michael seems to be very shy, timid, very, like a sensitive person, he actually has a lot of courage. He has a lot of courage, he has a lot of determination, and he has a lot of boldness. But I think it's not a kind of boldness that comes as aggression, or like somebody who is very arrogant. He has a lot of courage to do a lot of things, when even when people opposes it, he will have the courage to do that. So his Mars is quite strong, and it's sitting in his third house, which is a house of courage. So he is actually a very strong person. He is very, very courageous person, has a lot of energy, and his career is the focal point of his chart. Sun being strong also gives him a lot of leadership qualities, and Sun is looking at the ascendant. So, he is going to have a lot of Sun's, the exalted Sun's impact on his ascendant. So, he has a lot of leadership ability, and then, he, even when during a young age, he has the ability to kind of like lead a pack of more established singers, and, he had created a lot of philanthropic effort because of that. So, I feel like overall his chart indicate that the main purpose that he was put into earth is um you know by the Aquarius ascendant and the Aquarius moon sign, we can say that he is put into this earth to actually give back to the people in some way. Like, he took that role, and I think he did a very good justice to the role. And I also feel that career is a very big aspect in his chart, because his ascendant lord was sitting in the 10th house, and also his 10th house lord is the most strongest planet in his astrological chart. And leadership qualities were also expanded. So there are some other troubles in his life, like, like I said, the sixth lord being associated with the ascendant. But I think overall his chart, the focal point is his career, and he isn't put in this world to give back to others. So I hope you enjoyed this video about Michael Jackson's astrology chart, and I hope you found this information interesting. So if you like this video, do subscribe to my channel and also give me any comments if you need for this video. So thank you everyone.